Hello and welcome, friends. In the second module within the advertising and sales management course, wherein we are talking about sales management, we have started unit number 5. And in this particular unit, up till now, we have discussed the Salesforce structure, and we have also talked about the Salesforce types and Salesforce structure types, and we talked about the product-based and market-based and territorial structure. We also talked about a very simple method of calculating the appropriate number of salespersons that you would require for the personal selling effort. That is the Salesforce size, how to determine it. Now we are going to cover the Salesforce compensation. And I hope you know what compensation is. Compensation is basically the salary part. So when we say compensation management, we are talking about the salary and the incentives, whatever is being paid to the employees. So this is what we are going to discuss today, the compensation management as far as our Salesforce is concerned. So let us talk about the components. What all makes the compensation for a particular salesperson, right? So the first component is the fixed amount, which is given to the salesperson regardless of the level at which he is performing. So this would be the same for all the salesperson despite there being a difference in how well they are performing, right? So this would be the fixed amount, and that is why this is known as the fixed amount. It does not vary from one month to the other, and it actually satisfies the income stability needs of the salesperson. A certain level of income that does not depend on my performance as a salesperson would give me some kind of a mental peace, so that I can focus on my work and I don't have to worry about earning the bread and butter for my family, right? So that is why we have a fixed amount, and then we have got the variable amount. Now what is a variable amount? Variable amount is the amount that keeps varying, and it would vary depending on how well you are performing as a salesperson, right? So the whole idea is that if you have a variable amount which depends on how well you are performing, the salesperson would want to perform well, and they would want to perform well so that they can earn this variable amount. And that is why such variable amount would stimulate greater effort on the part of the salespersons, right? And what are the various ways in which you provide this variable amount to the salesperson? You can come up with some kind of a commission. You can give him some bonus or profit sharing. What do we mean by commission? Commission is, let's say, 1% of every sales made, or 1% of the annual sales made by the particular salesperson. So that would be his commission. Bonus could be when you are being rewarded for how well you have performed across the year, and a particular lump sum amount is given to you. So that is an example of a bonus. And profit sharing is the company is sharing a part of its profits with its employees. So profit sharing is slightly different in the sense that even if a salesperson has not done well, but the company has done well, and let's say the company has made a profit of rupees 10 lakhs, just to take a small example, and they want half of it, that is 5 lakhs, to be distributed equally among the salespersons. So that would be an example of profit sharing, right? So this would not depend only on the performance of the particular salesperson. It would rather depend on the performance of the company. And even if a particular salesperson is not performing well, the company is doing well, and the company decides to go for profit sharing, a little bit of the profit would also accrue to this particular salesperson who has not done well, just like it would accrue to those salespersons also who have been doing well, right? So in that sense, profit sharing is slightly different from bonus and commission. Bonus and commission are dependent on the individual performance of that particular salesperson. Now let's talk about expense allowance. What do we mean by the expense allowance? Expense allowance is the expenses that the salesperson has to incur in the course of his duty. So that compensation is made for that expenses, for those expenses which the salesperson has made while being on his duty. So for example, the salesperson would move from one particular prospect to the other. So he will have to travel a lot. He will have to visit different dealers or different customers in his territory. So he will be reimbursed that amount. So that would be known as travel allowance. Then naturally, if he is going to a far off place, he may have to stay there for the night. He may have to stay there overnight, and for that he will be given some lodging allowance. So all the hotel bills would be paid to him. Then dining allowance, naturally he would be going out, and he would be of course going for the dinner and lunches and occasional teas. So for that kind of expenses we have got dining allowances which are provided to the salesperson, and then we have got the entertaining allowance or the entertainment allowance. Now what do we mean by entertaining allowance or entertainment allowance? Is it for the salesperson's own entertainment? No, it is basically meant for the money that the salesperson has spent on entertaining his prospects. And what do we mean by entertaining the prospects? Naturally, supposing you want to, as a salesperson, want to make a particular prospect buy a particular product, right? And you know that this particular prospect is going to make a bulk purchase. Let's say he's going to place an order for 1 crore. So just to convince him to make that order and just to convince him to buy from your firm, you might want to take him to a dinner, and in the dinner you might be discussing your deal with him, or you might take him to a pub, and while having the drinks you are discussing the offer with him and you are cracking the deal there. So that is why salesperson need to entertain their prospects, and for that purpose, if they are spending some money, we are also giving them entertaining allowance or entertainment allowance, right? Then the next component is the benefits which come along the job. So what are the other benefits which are considered to be part of the compensation only? So for example, salespersons are sent on paid vacations, right? So for example, the salesperson is there, and suppose he wants to miss the duty on a particular day because he has some important function in his home to attend to, so he'll go for a casual leave. Now just because he's on casual leave, his salaries would not be deducted. In fact, he would be paid salary for that particular day also. So that is what we mean by paid vacation or paid leave. So you are taking a casual leave, even then you are being paid for that particular day. Or maybe Sundays, or maybe Eid or Dashera, Diwali, these days are holidays, but the salesperson would be paid though he has not been on duty on that particular day. So that is what we mean by a paid vacation. Then we have got sickness and accident benefits. Now this is very important for the mental peace of the salesperson, because the salesperson would also be concerned about the well-being of his family. Now if he is given some sickness benefits, for example, there's a provision that if he falls sick and he is hospitalized, the whole expense would be borne by the company, then naturally he will be assured of his well-being, and this would reflect in his greater involvement in his work and greater commitment towards his goals. Again, accident benefits, likewise we can have provisions wherein if the salesperson meets an accident, a particular amount of compensation would be paid to the salesperson or to his family or to his dependents. So these kind of provisions give the salesperson an assurance that if there is some problem with him, the company would take care of his and his family, and this gives him the inner peace to exert greater efforts while on the field. Then we have got pension. Pension is the monthly allowance that goes to the employee once he has left the job. So that is what we know as pension, but generally most of the private firms, they generally don't have pension. However, what they do is they subscribe to some kind of a contributory pension scheme wherein the salesperson as well as the employers, both of them, they contribute some share towards a particular fund which will be used to give away pension to that particular salesperson once he retires from his job at the age of 58 or at the age of 60 or 65. So these kind of benefits are also part of the compensation. Then we've got life insurance, very important. Life insurance would mean that if something happens to the salesperson, the dependents will be given some lump sum amount so that they can survive in his absence. So this is an example of life insurance. Many a times what happens is, please understand, it's not the company which insures the life of the employee or the salesperson. Basically what will happen is, the company would be paying the life insurance premium to a life insurance firm to insure the life of its own salesperson, so that if something untoward happens and somehow the salesperson is no more, then the family can be taken care of. So the premium that might go towards that particular life insurance policy would be paid by the company, and that is why this is part of the compensation that is paid to the sales force, right? Likewise, many times the companies, they also have group health insurance plan where they are paying the health insurance premium on the behalf of the employee or on the behalf of the salesperson to the particular health insurance firm. And if somehow something happens to this particular salesperson, he's sick or he's hospitalized, that particular health insurance firm will be covering such hospitalization costs. So in essence, what the company is doing, they are not on their own providing any sickness or accident benefits, but they have actually entered into an agreement with a third party. In this case, it is the health insurance firm, and they are paying the premium on behalf of the salesperson. So the salesperson does not have to pay this premium. The premium will be paid by the company, and in that sense, it is part of the compensation of the sales force only. Now let's talk about the different types of compensation plans which can be there for the sales force. One is the straight salary. What do we mean by straight salary? Straight salary basically means there would only be the fixed component. There would be simply no variable component. And that is why it's a very simple plan. No calculation has to be done. You don't need to assess the performance level of an employee, of a salesperson, before deciding how much to be paid to him at the end of the month. So in that sense, it's a very simple plan. And the advantage is that since the performance is not linked to the salary that the salesperson is going to get, the salesperson is not going to missell. The salesperson is not going to dupe his customers into buying from him. He is not going to overstock his customers, because selling and the volumes of sales he makes has no correlation with the salary that he is getting. So in that sense, he would not want to dupe the customers. So in that sense, we can ensure that the customers are not missold, and the customers naturally would be more satisfied since they are not being missold and they are being only sold a particular product which suits their requirements. So in that sense, the customers would be satisfied. And this basically is used, straight salary plan is used when the task requires teamwork and when there is a high ratio of non-selling to selling duties. Now let us understand what do we mean by them. Task requires teamwork, which means all the sales persons, they have to collaborate with each other. And if you tell them that your salary would be dependent on how well you are performing, they would probably not want to cooperate with each other, because they would look for their own individual benefit rather than looking for the benefit of the whole group or the whole company or the whole team. So then, to make them work as a team, to make them cooperate as a team, we need to use this particular plan, which is the straight salary plan. Secondly, if there is a high ratio of non-selling to selling duties, which means you have to sell as a salesperson also, but you have to do many things apart from just selling. You have to, for example, also collect market information from the customers or from the dealers. Now this is an important part of your duty. So naturally, if you tell the salesperson that the salesperson would be paid according to the number of units that he is selling, then naturally the salesperson is not going to pay attention to such non-selling duties, because selling is what is bringing him more salary. So he would not be paying much attention to non-selling duties like collecting market information. And if there's a lot of non-selling activities that your salesperson has to do, then you generally go for straight salary kind of compensation plans. Let us now discuss the straight commission. What do we mean by straight commission? Straight commission is the exact opposite of straight salary. Herein there is no fixed component, please understand, only variable component. The whole performance would ultimately decide how much salary as a salesperson you would be getting, right? What is the advantage? You don't need to supervise anything. You don't need to supervise how they are performing. Why? Because their salary as a salesperson, the salesperson's salary depend on how well he is performing, how many units he is selling. So in any case, even if he is not being supervised by somebody, even if he is not being constantly monitored, constantly watched, he is going to go to the market, he is going to go to the field and make his sales, because the number of units that he sells will decide the amount of money that he will be carrying home at the end of the month. So less supervision would be needed in such cases. Please understand, these kind of compensation plans, they also attract high performers who know that they are good in selling and they can sell a number of products, they can sell a lot, and that is why who would want to be rewarded for how many units they are able to sell and rewarded for how much revenue they are bringing to the company. So such high performers would be happier here, not in straight salary compensation plan, because there being a high performer is not going to be of great help, because even if you are a high performer and somebody is not performing that well, the straight salary compensation plan would mean that both the salesperson would get paid the same amount of salary. And so those who are high performers, those who feel they can sell a lot, and those who feel that they can bring in a lot of sales, they would want their sales volume to decide how much salary they are going to carry home at the end of the month, and they would probably prefer the variable component only, and they would probably prefer the straight commission plan, right? However, here there are chances of, have a look, this is a demerit of this kind of compensation plan. There are chances that the salesperson would want to dupe the customer, would somehow want to obtain the customer order, rather than trying to understand the actual need of the customer and trying to sell him the appropriate product. He would only be looking forward to selling his product somehow so that he can take back the commission. And so this could result into customer dissatisfaction, and this would also impact the relationship between the salesperson and the customer. The customer would never like to purchase again from such a salesperson who has duped him in the first instance. So this is a problem. So if you are focusing on customer satisfaction, if you go for straight commission, you'll have to be very, very cautious. You can probably go for straight salary. That would be a better option for you, right? Now we have a mix of the two, straight salary and straight commission, which is known as the combination salary and commission, which means there would be both fixed component and variable components as well, right? Now please understand, this would mean that a particular portion of your salary is fixed, which means that despite your underperformance or despite your overperformance, you would be carrying a particular amount to your home for sure. However, there would be a variable component also, which would depend on how well you are performing. So there is a mix of the two, the fixed and the variable component. That is why it is known as a combination salary and commission plan. Please understand, the variable component will take care of profitability, because variable component would mean the more number of units you sell as a salesperson, the higher salary you carry to your home, and naturally the salesperson would want to sell as many products as possible, and so profitability is taken care of. But since there is a particular amount of fixed proportion also which would be given to you, you would also want to satisfy the customer and retain him, right? Because in any case you are going to get that particular fixed amount. That particular fixed amount is going to be paid to you, whatever the situation is. So you would want to also ensure that you satisfy the customer, and you as a salesperson try to understand his needs and accordingly suggest him the best product for his requirements. So that is why combination salary and commission plans are the most prevalent in organizations. So this concludes our discussion on compensation. In the next unit, we'll be talking about the recruitment and training part. Thank you very much.